All right, y'all. Y'all are listening to The Clean Finish. No Mercy just going off the air not too long ago. And we're here to give you our reactions and review of the show. Joining me on the line, as always, Ant-Man. How you doing tonight, man?
Hey, Triple R, how you doing? What hell of a pay-per-view.
Yeah, man. I was just fixing to ask you, how did you like the show tonight? I thought it was a pretty decent show, especially when you consider, this is traditionally a B show. They really stacked the card for the Staples Center. They were in LA tonight, and I thought overall the show was pretty damn good.
I thought overall the show was great. They did stack the card. It was a very heavy slate. Kind of confused on some of the outcomes and some of the positioning of the matches, but overall, I thought it was a great show.
Yeah, I have to agree. And man, the LA crowd was really up for it tonight, man. I thought they displayed great energy all throughout the night, and that helps in how a show comes across to the viewing audience at home.
Yeah, most definitely. Even in the match, like the cruiserweight match, where they kind of a little bit halfway through the match fell out of it, they still showed you that, hey, we're not feeling it, and you could feel that. So something is better than nothing, and they definitely got something in each and every match.
All right, so as always, they had a pre-show. Not a whole lot to talk about, but you did call it on our last episode. You predicted an Apollo Crews match of some sort on the pre-show, and we got one here. He went up against Elias, and I didn't even watch the match, but I know that Elias came out on top on that match. Did you happen to watch it?
I didn't watch the pre-match, but I did see that Cruz was going up against Elias. Again, two guys that have the look, but just don't have characters that really make any lick of sense right now.
Well, between the two, I think Elias has the most opportunity to make something because he at least has a character of some sort with the Drifter, the singer, and all that good stuff. Apollo Crews, I have no idea what they're doing with him. I don't know who he's supposed to be. I don't know if he's, where does he come from? I don't know anything about this guy other than he's in phenomenal shape and can do some impressive moves. But outside of that, I know nothing of the guy.
Yeah, he's right now with the whole brand management of Titus O'Neil.
The Titus O'Neil, yeah.
And but again, Apollo Crews is a big, beefy looking dude who's got the ability of a cruiserweight and the agility of a cruiserweight. But again, his character just kind of doesn't make sense, or they haven't invested enough time in his character to kind of fully develop it. So it's kind of one of those guys that are just floating out there with no real end game in sight. I agree with you as far as Elias goes. His character is at least a better concept, a little bit more developed, but still needs some work to get over with the WWE crowd. But that's what the pre-shows are for.
That's what they're for. So the show opens up with The Miz defending his Intercontinental Championship against Jason Jordan. And right off the bat, as they were, how the announcers introduced themselves, when they made their way to the Spanish announce team, I noticed that in the front row there on that side of the ring, the cast of Glow. I've been meaning to actually talk to you about Glow and ask you if you had a chance to watch that show on Netflix.
I did watch the show on Netflix. I really liked it. I really liked Glow. I thought it was excellent performance. Again, you see former WWE wrestlers, former, or well-known former WWE, former WCW, whatever style wrestlers in there, either as cameos or I know for a fact behind the scenes that they were like Chavo Guerrero trained some of these women for the wrestling. So yeah, I did watch Glow. I really liked it, and I'm glad that they renewed it for a second season.
I found it odd that they didn't make any mention of them being there. I was kind of paying attention to that throughout the night because it was curious to me that they were all in the front row. I mean, that didn't happen by accident. The WWE placed them there, so I did find that kind of odd that they were never mentioned throughout the night. But like you said, great show. So anyone out there that hasn't seen it, go out of your way to check it out. Speaking of Glow, we had the Miz Taraj come out in all their orange gloriness, man. Them dudes are killing me, man.
Hey, there's no suntan lotion or some self-tanner that was safe in Los Angeles.
So, man, Miz got a pretty good reaction. I don't know if being in L.A. had a lot to do with that. I believe he resides there, so that may have something to do with it, but did notice that he got a great reaction. Jason Jordan, his reaction fell kind of flat. I mean, it's debatable on whether or not this is working, the whole Jason Jordan, Kurt Angle deal. I tell you what, though, man, he needs a new look as far as his ring attire, man. I'm not digging what he's wearing. And then his Titantron had that green and yellow, like I don't know, it kind of gave me like a Jamaican vibe or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think now that he's gone solo, I think it's about time for a little ring attire upgrade. And it almost feels like the people are holding reservations because they feel almost like the Roman Reigns situation where, with the whole Kurt Angle storyline is kind of being forced. Him as an individual is being forced on us. And you know how the WWE fans are. They don't like anything forced on them. So, but you did see kind of a shade of a heel turn potentially at the end there.
Yeah, with the post-match interview.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see where they go with that. If his frustrations end up, him taking it out on Daddy, turning into Daddy issues.
So I thought they had a pretty decent match. I'm a huge fan of the Northern Lights suplex that Jason Jordan does, and I can't believe we failed to mention that on our last episode because we talked about the Three Amigos with the Eddie Guerrero suplexes, and then the Suplex City where they do multiple German suplexes, and neither of us thought of mentioning that Northern Lights suplex roll into another one. That is a super impressive move to see.
Yeah, after the podcast was over, I was like, man, we didn't even talk about power bombs.
Oh yeah, multiple power bombs. Yeah.
But see that Jason Jordan's wrestling ability from college and stuff like that makes those moves look that much impressive.
So we had a screw finish here at the end. Miz Taraj distracting Jason Jordan. Miz hits the skull crushing finale for the pin. I think we both called Miz retaining here, so not a huge surprise right here.
No, not at all. You had to figure that the Miz Taraj was going to play a factor into the final decision. Especially him being in his home away from home, which is Los Angeles. He's an A-lister, so thought it was an excellent match. I thought these two would have a good match, and they did. So a great way to start off a pay-per-view.
So you mentioned the post-match interview. That kind of took me by surprise, especially being done in the ring. I honestly can't remember the last time I've seen them do anything like that. Well, what'd you think of it?
I don't like it. They do it on Raw sometimes and sometimes on SmackDown, and I think it's stupid. Like, how are you going to interview somebody 2 seconds after a loss or a victory or whatever? They did it again with Alexa Bliss in No Mercy. They caught her on the way up to the ring, way back to the backstage. I'm not a fan of it at all. Just, catch them backstage in a backstage segment and keep it out of the ring. This isn't a talk show. This isn't the real talk where you're trying to get these information from them. Keep it backstage where I think it's better suited.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't think it comes off very naturally there in the ring, especially when they're just beat, they're exhausted, they're still trying to catch their breath. And it'd be one thing if they were going to deliver some actual insight, say like a post-boxing match. But if they're going to try to recite, lines that they memorize before coming out to the match, and then they're trying to remember them after the match, I don't think it comes off very well.
Yeah, not just that. It just seems like almost, rushed per se, because the guy just lost, so the panning out to the victor leaving up the stage so that Renee Young or whoever it is can hurry up and run into the ring and be ready for when the camera cuts back. It just, I don't know, it's not working to me.
No, you're absolutely right. The production value of it does seem a little herky-jerky at best. So next up was Finn Balor going up against Bray Wyatt. Finn coming out in gray. Well, that looked a little odd to me. I don't know if that's the right look for him. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, I agree with you. It did seem a little weird that he had the gray trunks. I was just like,
So I was really nervous, man. They did a great job of teasing a possible no contest after Bray Wyatt jumped Finn there at the beginning, but putting him through. Well, I don't think he broke the table, but he, rock bottomed him, that similar rock bottom looking move onto the table, selling a rib injury. Finn Balor comes back, so I'm okay. I'm like, all right, the rib injury is going to be a story here throughout the match. So I was really curious to see how he would, try to sell that rib, and I thought he did all right with that.
I think he did well. Again, I don't get the whole point of this feud because it seems very one-sided as we go. But he sold the injury. We all believed it. I kind of liked Bray Wyatt attacking him to the get-go. It adds more to credibility to his heel and the Eater of Worlds and stuff like that. But And again, the WWE has no idea what to do with Bray Wyatt.
No, they don't. And you know, and let's just go ahead and get to the finish of the match. Finn did win, but you know, the way they booked the match with Bray Wyatt jumping Finn, you know, it was an even match as far as, you know, how much of the match they were able to take. Finn had his moments, Bray Wyatt had his moments, but I thought Bray Wyatt had better moments. And especially there towards the end, just before the finish of the match, he had this great little spot where he was throwing Finn around because Bray's a big dude and he was doing these suplex throws and just looking super strong. And then Finn comes out with the win. Shortly after that, it kind of left me scratching my head.
Well, apparently that must have been the theme for the night, because this wouldn't be the first or last time that I was left scratching my head after a match.
We'll get into that here in just a little bit. So next up, we had the Raw Tag Team titles with The Bar going up against Rollins and Ambrose. I thought this was a great match. You know, the first two matches we talked about were pretty good, but this was the first great match of the night. Excellent story told throughout the match with The Bar executing their plan to a T and displaying great tag team chemistry, while Rollins and Ambrose, they seemed to be a little off their game. They missed tags. They were missing some opportunities to get the upper hand, but they were able to pull it together there at the end, and just a phenomenal match.
Yeah, great match, which we both expected. The Bar, you know, showing why they are quote unquote the Bar. Why they don't set the bar? They are the Bar, doing what they're doing. And then not only on top of that, you have real life injury with Cesaro busting his teeth
Brutal
in the middle of the match and just kept going. And then he headbutts, or his head collides with Ambrose, I think it is, and then he busts his forehead open.
And now, granted, this was hard way, but color adds to the match. And, you know, when you do it over the top, it loses its effect, but just the right amount of color just adds to the grittiness of the match. And I thought it was perfect, man. And those two spots were brutal.
I agree. Something that I don't necessarily think was planned, but it just adds to the credibility of these two teams fighting, willing to risk everything that they have to get those titles back.
So they mentioned an awesome stat. I believe it was Michael Cole that ran down the list of accomplishments for Sheamus. And I was blown away. The man's literally done it all. Money in the Bank winner, Royal Rumble winner, WWE champion, United States champion. I mean, tag team champion. I mean, the man's done it all. King of the Ring. And it got me to thinking, well, man, Rollins is a former champion himself, former Money in the Bank, along with Dean Ambrose as well. The only person that didn't have such a long list of accomplishments was Cesaro. And it just goes back to a pod we did a couple months ago where the roster is actually pretty stacked. I mean, when you got four guys of this caliber in a tag team match, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have. And unfortunately for Cesaro, the problem with Cesaro is that initially his gimmick didn't get over, and then he was always hurt. So his lack of time being there precludes him from some of these accomplishments, like possibly winning a Money in the Bank title match. I mean, I guess he won the Andre the Giant Battle Memorial, but again, they never did anything with him after they won that.
These four guys are so talented. I just want to go through some notes that I have here. Just the level of psychology these guys were just displaying were just something else, man. They had a real nice spot, Sheamus and Cesaro, where Sheamus kind of powerbomb position, but throws Dean Ambrose over his head, and Cesaro caught him with a forearm uppercut, goes for a pin. It was a close a 2 count, the kick out on 2, and then they argued with the ref for like 2-3 minutes about the count, and I really enjoy stuff like that, man. It's the small details, like, man, if this was a shoot fight, I'd be pretty pissed too I didn't get the win right there.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And then I think it's the little details like that that adds to the greatness of a heel.
Yes.
Or the greatness of a heel team is the fact that they're willing to argue with the damn referee for 2 to 3 minutes because they know they're right and risk having a surprise attack waiting for them, you know, because they're, you know, the bad guys and like, hey, referee, you're going to do what the hell we tell you or else. And I think a lot of the heels nowadays are missing the nuances of the business.
I also got to give Ambrose a slight round of applause. I caught him on the outside slamming his shoulder up against the barricade like he was Riggs from Lethal Weapon. I love that little spot right there.
I mean, look, the lunatic fringe works for him. I think at times he uses it too much. for example, I wish he would use it less throughout the weekly shows of when he gets thrown into the ropes and he, uses a rope as a springboard. Because
Right.
I think if you save that as a one of those things you pull out in your back pocket, it makes it more special. And so I've seen him on Raw use it like 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, you're just killing the move if you do that.
We had a phenomenal false finish where it was almost a repeat of the SummerSlam finish. Sheamus had Dean Ambrose, I believe. Yeah, Dean Ambrose in the white noise, and I don't think I've ever seen them pull this move off. I'm sure they have, but I guess Cesaro jumps off the ropes to do something. Well, Seth Rollins gets in there, and if you remember SummerSlam, Seth Rollins was able to Hurricanrana Cesaro into Sheamus. So
Yeah.
I'm over here thinking we're going to see a repeat of that finish. But then Cesaro stops the Hurricane Rana. Sheamus lays out Dean Ambrose, and then we get a power bomb from the top. Rollins on top. I thought that was the end. They had me there, man.
Yeah, no, most definitely. They had some really good pops and some really good setups. And I thought with you for a moment there, I was like, okay, they're going to hit him with the same move and then maybe repeat this a couple of times and kind of build the frustration between the team. But they kind of they put a spin on it, a nice little twist. So again, this match was everything we thought it was gonna be.
So Rollins and Ambrose comes out with the win, and I have to think they're going to do this again at TLC, possibly in a TLC match. They're going to have to revisit this at least one more time. These two teams have been hell of a feud.
Oh, I agree, and I think a TLC match would be perfect for these guys. Sheamus is no stranger to no disqualifications, using weapons type of matches. Rollins, the Lunatic Fringe, kind of thrives in the chair matches. I remember, I forget who he was feuding with, but I remember him literally emptying out every single chair underneath the ring into the middle of the ring.
It was Bray Wyatt.
Was it? Yeah, okay, so with Bray Wyatt. So, I think a TLC match would be great for these guys.
So up next, we had the women's fatal five-way. Emma, Bayley, Sasha Banks, Nia Jax going up against Alexa Bliss. And this match surprised me. I did not have very high expectations going into it. But these five women, man, they pulled out a pretty fun match. I really liked the intros that they did prior to starting the match. It gave everybody a second to kind of get in the middle of the ring. Crowd cheer, boo them, whatever the case may be. I thought that was a nice little touch.
Well, going back to what you mentioned earlier, this would have been a perfect opportunity for them to mention the women of Glow, seeing how it was a fatal five-way match for a championship.
Exactly.
But I do agree with you. I do like the individual entrances. I'm glad that they didn't have anybody already in the ring waiting for them.
Yeah.
Again, like I said in the live podcast, I don't understand Bayley's last second throw into this match. But each woman had their pops. Nia Jax looked like a beast, and it took multiple people to get her out, and there was multiple moves. And she took a nasty bump off the ring onto a power bomb onto the floor, and she landed on her shoulders, and she still got up. So she looked like a beast, and the match itself was a great match.
It was a great match, and just like you said, Nia Jax, star-making performance. The bump that you mentioned, her coming off the apron onto the floor. She also took a really nasty one when she rammed her shoulder into the post, and that led to her falling to the outside. And then she had that amazing feat of strength where she had Alexa was one of them for sure. I want to say Sasha Banks was the other.
Sasha was the other. The double Samoan drop.
It was a great spot, man. They really went out of their way to make Nia Jax seem like a big deal in this match.
They really did. And then ultimately, I predicted her winning.
Well, we both did.
And it turns out that Alexa Bliss retains, which I'm not necessarily mad at. Because I like the match itself. But again, two people just seem irrelevant in this match is Bayley and Emma. Like, you set something up with Emma and then you don't follow through, and then you throw Bayley in last minute because they were in San Jose in her hometown the Monday before the pay-per-view. So I just think that you really could have done without them and still had a great match.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought Emma was in the match simply to take the fall, but I was wrong. Bayley was the one that took the fall. Alexa hit her with a DDT after, some brief commotion with all five women. We finally get to just them two in the ring, hits her with a DDT, retains the title. So I was really surprised that they had Bayley taking the the loss here. Like you said, she was inserted at the last minute, so that I don't know. That just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
My only guess is that they're gonna set up a Bailey Alexa Bliss feud, and so she takes the fall, so that kind of gives her more motivation to be the first one out of the gate to, get that rematch or whatever. So I guess in that case, but again, still, you could have done something. You could have done a storyline without necessarily adding her to this match.
Yeah, I agree. And man, I don't think I've ever mentioned this to you, man, but have you ever noticed how stupid Alexa looks with the belt when she's wearing it around her waist? It's like 2 sizes too big for her.
I give her credit because she's one of the few champions to wear the actual title, but she's so short and the title's so big that it does look a little weird on her.
I mean, she looks like a little girl at the arena that bought it. It's just too big for her, man.
It does look a little silly when she does it, considering she's barely 5 feet tall. But I give her props for actually wearing the belt to the ring as a champion.
And you know what? And this is kind of like a sidebar right here. Going to go off on a little tangent here, but I think it's worth mentioning. There was a time where the WWE's theory on women's wrestling was just get pretty girls in there, whether they be models or fitness models, whatever the case may be. We'll teach them how to wrestle. Now it's kind of evolved where they got actual wrestlers in there, but these are some pretty good looking women, man.
Oh yeah, no doubt. They've actually, so they had that time and period where they were like, we'll just get the prettiest women out there and teach them a few basic moves, and we'll give them 5-10 minutes. And now they're in a situation where they have the women's revolution, and now you have women wrestlers who have trained to become wrestlers, and it just so happens that they're not bad to look at either. Mm-hmm. So you have kind of the best of both worlds. And if you look at both Raw and SmackDown, you've got some good looking women on both sides, and women that I could legitimately believe that they're going to open a can of whoop ass on you. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, and still, have the makeup and be ready for date night right after. So
there you go. And that's a credit to WWE. Whoever's doing their talent scouting on the women's side, it's a credit to them, man, because that's a tough that's a tough balance to find. A good-looking women to appeal to a male audience, and then still have the athletic ability to be able to pull off a believable wrestling match for the wrestling fans. So, I mean, they deserve a lot of credit for that right there.
Well, I mean, for this women's revolution, you can thank. Well, I think you thank the generation of YouTubes where a lot of these. I would imagine a lot of these girls are seeing videos on YouTube's of old wrestling matches, '90s eras wrestling matches, and stuff like that. And then you have the WWE Performance Center, which I think can be attributed to a lot of the development of some of these women. I think Alexa Bliss came through the WWE Performance Center. Charlotte Flair, that's natural genetics along with combination. Becky Lynch came through the Performance Center. Nia Jax came through the Performance Center. This WWE Performance Center, I like to call it the Power Plant 2.0. And for those of you that don't know what the Power Plant is, that was what WCW was doing in the 90s to build and generate these wrestlers.
Hey, so while we're on the women, throughout the pay-per-view, they were airing Asuka promos for TLC. Looks like they're going to be making a big deal of her arrival.
Yeah, rightfully so. The woman that has dominated all of NXT, you would imagine, is going to get the similar welcome to the WWE, and I think they're going to handle her properly.
We'll see. I mean, she's coming off of an extraordinary run on NXT, and with Triple H having, he's not Vince McMahon by any means, but Triple H is involved in Raw and SmackDown, and you look at how he handled her down in NXT, you have to believe he's going to have some sway in how they handle her on Raw, and I think she'll be all right.
Yeah, I can imagine that Triple H has got like a list of those that he can kind of pull the leverage card on, like a list of protected wrestlers where he gets to like put some input in there, and I'm sure Asuka's one of them.
So moving on, we have our first of 2 main events. Now you mentioned you were kind of iffy on the placement on some of these matches. By chance, was this one of them?
Yeah, the Roman Reigns John Cena match. I was like, and I'm looking at my watch and I'm thinking like, okay, did I miss the cruiserweight match? And did I go to the bathroom when that match came out? I'm looking and I go on Twitter and I'm like, no, I didn't miss it. and then the John Cena Roman Reigns match goes out, and it was a hell of a match, and then followed that up by the cruiserweight match. I was like, what the hell?
It's something that the WWE's been practicing for quite a while. They have this idea of we need to put a popcorn match in before the main event and not have two big matches back to back, so that the crowd isn't drained of their energy. Because again, they depend on a crowd to be lively throughout these matches, just so that the presentation of the matches just come off like a bigger deal to the home audience who's watching the pay-per-views in the comfort of their home. So I'm not a subscriber of that myself. I say if you have co-main events, then you put them one after another like they would at a UFC or a boxing match. And if the crowd can't handle it, then it is what it is. If they deliver good matches, I think the crowd will be there.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's like what you said. I'm guessing they were trying to give the audience a second to breathe in between each match. But I think, and then what ended up happening is that during the Cruiserweight title match, you hear the crowd saying, this is boring. But so co-main event, as it was listed, Roman Reigns, John Cena, a hell of a match, except I can't figure out what John Cena is doing lately. In the last couple of pay-per-views and the last couple of matches, it seems like he's more interested in following the commands of the crowd than he is being John Cena.
Yeah, we've touched on that. And in this match, because he teased walking away, right? And then Reigns goes out, follows him, gets him back in. I think there's a chance that they did that spot tonight in an effort to get the crowd to cheer Reigns for, oh, boo, we're not here to see someone walk out. Yeah, Reigns, you got him back in the ring. We're going to see our match. Nothing is going to get the crowd to cheer Roman Reigns. They just need to abandon that ship, man. It's sinking. Yeah. It's rock bottom.
Yeah, I can see how they're trying to get, Roman Reigns is taking the fight to John Cena. But I think towards the end of the match, yeah, he got his boos, but I think for the most part, it slowly started to turn around in the crowd leaning towards Roman Reigns' side.
Oh man, are you seriously? I didn't get that at all.
I mean, I thought at times throughout the matchup, I felt like some of the energy was definitely leaning towards Roman Reigns.
Man, I may have to watch it again. I mean, I was busy writing notes as I was watching the match, but man, it seemed like neither men had the crowd. They both were getting booed, but if I had to lean over, one way or another as far as who got more boos, I thought it was Reigns, especially during the entrances.
Well, obviously during the entrances, Roman got booed, and I think towards the end of the matchup, you had like a small pop of cheers, and then the boos rained down on them. But I thought at times throughout that match, because of how well the match went as far as them hitting their spots and hitting the moves on each other, that I'm pretty sure. I mean, I guess I'd have to watch it again, but I thought there was a moment there, a sliver of hope for Roman Reigns and winning the crowd over.
So let's go ahead and talk about the match. Like you said, it was a great match. This was one of the matches I was looking forward to the most, and it didn't disappoint. It was a very good match, and got a lot to cover here. It was a real slow, methodical match. Reigns he took the match really early on, and I loved how he was talking shit as he was laying in his moves, and I thought he did a real good job with that right there. They had a great false finish kind of mid-match where Cena countered a flying clothesline from Reigns, and he was able to convert it into a AA for a near fall. I thought that was a pretty neat little spot.
Yeah, I agree. Reigns right off the bat, just, two back-to-back hard right hands left John Cena with wobbly legs. And I agree with you. I think that helps his character is to just talk. You're the big dog, right? This is your yard. Well, then talk the smack that you need to your opponents while you're beating them down.
We had another great false finish after a super AA off the top rope, and then shortly after they spill out to the outside, and then we had a table spot. Cena trying to do an AA to Reigns. He was able to slither out of it, delivered a spear, and it was nasty looking. I mean, Reigns looked like he took the brunt of that one.
Yeah, it looked like Roman did land on his head and he folded up when he did that. when Cena went to clear the tables, it could be that, I've seen both sides of this. I kind of, in the back of my head, I was like, nah, I think Roman's going to turn this around. But I would have loved to see a different move for Roman to hit other than the spear on that kind of move.
Yeah, maybe the Samoan drop would have been better.
Or a rock bottom-ish type move.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that to send, where you send your full force through Cena, through the table.
Mm-hmm.
But again, a great spot, great moments between both. The Super AA was ridiculous. And later on, I think shortly after after Cena gets put through the table where they're back in the ring, John Cena hits the AA, then rolls into and picks Roman Reigns back up to hit another AA.
Now, at that point, I thought Cena was going to win the match. When he hit the double AAs, I was like, okay, this has got to be it. He kicks out of it, and like to me, the crowd just died. Like they were like, oh, this is really going to keep going?
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought by the time he hit the double AA, I was like, this is over. John Cena has beat Roman Reigns. Call it a wraps. And for Roman to kick out, I agree with you. Kind of killed the momentum there for a second. And then I liked how Roman Reigns, tired, weak, was able to hit the Superman punch and then the spear to win it. But it was more his pin, where he basically left all that he had out there and he could barely lift John Cena's leg over to finish off the pin, that I thought played well on TV.
Yeah, it was a nice visual. And then post-match, Cena gave him the stamp of approval, and then he had like a little bit of a curtain call. What'd you read into that?
I did see that. I thought that was pretty interesting that, that they would, I figured John Cena would shake the guy's hand and go about his business, but the little hug and the, curtain call thing was interesting. And so it's going to be interesting to see come Raw tomorrow night, how that plays out, which I already know. I'm calling it now. I know what they're doing with Roman Reigns, and I know what his next goal is in sight.
Go ahead and lay it on me.
He's going to be the next Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah, I saw that they're going to kick off Raw. For whatever reason, they made it a point to mention they're going to kick off Raw tomorrow night with Miz TV. Yeah, I think you're right. They're going to set up Miz, Roman Reigns, put the Intercontinental title on them. They got to do something. They got to buy time for. I mean, they're going to go all the way with Reigns to WrestleMania. It's going to be him and Lesnar, it's looking like.
Well, and I think it sets up two folds. One, obviously you put a title on Reigns. Hopefully you keep continuing to win the crowd over. But two, it interrupts Miz's historic Intercontinental title run. And then as the heel that he is, it gives him that more fuel and edginess and nastiness to get back the title he deserves. Or at least in his mind, he deserves.
I think Miz and Reigns will be a good matchup. On paper, it looks like Reigns will just dominate Miz, but if they pull off the right type of match and Miz can squander off a couple of wins, with interference and whatnot, I think it'll be pretty cool.
Well, then the question comes in too, because the Miz has the Miztourage, and you gotta assume that they're going to interfere. Does his buddies from the Shield come out and help out?
There you go. It all comes back full circle. 3-on-3. That may be where they're headed, man. I think you're calling this one right.
It'll be interesting. It'll be something good. And I think them getting back together, Roman Reigns specifically, getting back together with Rollins and Ambrose could potentially help, again, just finally be that push that he needs to kind of start tilting the ball over to getting over with the crowd.
All right, so moving along, we have Enzo going up against Neville for the Cruiserweight Championship. I was surprised, man. Enzo had got a pretty good pop from the crowd, delivered a pretty decent promo. Did you notice the kick game?
I did notice it. I was like, why is he wearing a Beetlejuice outfit? And then I saw the Nike Airs up-tempo 2s, which were the Pippins.
Yeah, well, in that particular one he was wearing tonight, it's a special colorway where, not necessarily the colorway, but on the insoles, it's an image of Pippen, his most famous dunk over Patrick Ewing.
Patrick Ewing, yes, I do know that. And I think those are awesome. And I actually want a pair of those. I haven't made it around to getting a pair of those yet, but they are on my list of things to buy. Correct me if I'm wrong. the last time I checked, the cruiserweight division is 205 pounds and under, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
So how is it that Neville looks like he's a 300 pounder going against a 100-pound man? Like, explain that to me. That doesn't even make sense.
It's very interesting, man, because when they did the Cruiserweight Classic, I mean, they really pushed that 205 weight limit. I mean, a couple of the guys, for a shoot, in reality, had to cut weight. Cedric Alexander, I think, was one of the guys that had to cut weight just to be able to make the tournament. I knew they weren't going to stick to that, but when you got a guy like Neville that's obviously over 205 pounds, I mean, come on, guys, let's do a little bit better here.
Right, but my thing being is you look at Enzo and you look at Neville's, and body wise they look relatively even, right? So it's not like one is necessarily bigger than the other, right? But obviously Enzo's outclassed in the style of wrestling. So you would think that in a match like this that would play out. Like Neville would literally out wrestle him. And instead he out muscled him. And I couldn't understand that.
Yeah, he took the match. You know what, man? I've been a critic of Enzo's in-ring work. I don't think it's great, but I'll give him credit for knowing how to take an ass whooping. I mean, there's very few guys that can bump like Enzo and make it look so good. Like, there were a couple of moments in this match where I thought, damn, is he knocked loopy here for real?
Yeah, I was worried about that too. He's been concussed before running into the ropes, and the man knows how to take a bump, just like you said. And when the manhandling that was happening was just ridiculous, and Enzo makes it look good, but I'm like, is that Brock Lesnar Jr. out there? Like, I don't get the match. If Neville would have like out wrestled him and done the breaks like he did, hit him with a pinning maneuver, roll him over, roll on top of him, slap him on the back of the head, and then get up. I get that. Just the whole manpowering thing, I just didn't get. This is the cruiserweight division. Come on now.
So we had a spot where Neville's on the outside. Enzo's fixing to go out, do like a suicide dive or something like that. Gets caught with a wicked kick. Sells it like $1 million, spills out to the outside. This is one of the spots where I thought this dude was knocked silly for real. Gets thrown over the timekeepers area where JoJo's sexy ass was sitting at. She was looking
Ooh,
she was looking good tonight, man.
Ooh, she fine.
And then I thought they did a little creative spot right here where Enzo, and I think he did something similar in NXT where he acted like he was, he didn't know what the hell was going on. Grabs the belt like, hey, I just won the match. I actually liked that. I liked how they did it. It played into the finish. He gets back in the ring. They have to take the belt away from him. Referee turns his back, kicks Neville's in the balls, pins him real quick for a dirty, with the dirty win, and gets the belt. What'd you think of it?
I like the spot, but honestly, I thought that they were gonna. I thought Enzo was gonna use the belt behind the referee's back to get the win.
Some shout out to Eddie Guerrero type shit.
Exactly. But he does it with the low blow. Hey, anything you lie, you cheat, you steal to win the gold. And I like the way they did it because now Neville's, the king of the cruiserweight is pissed off. He lost in a low blow. You set up some return matches before Enzo Amore gets thrown over into the fine area of JoJo sitting. The one that I thought that he really might have been hurt is when Neville throws him on the other side of the ring towards the entrance into the barricade.
Yeah.
And he just like 180 flops straight back into the barricade. And I'm like, what? I'm like, damn, this dude literally might be hurt for real.
He takes an ass whooping like none other, man. He really does.
And then, okay, so going back to JoJo for a second, you think about that? And then she's with Bray Wyatt?
Hey, man. Hey.
Really?
Hey, listen.
And then on top of that, she was a side chick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, come on now. Bray Wyatt ain't going to land something like that. If it wasn't for the fact that he was Bray Wyatt, he ain't landing someone like JoJo.
I agree. But I'm like, look at, like, JoJo, do you own mirrors in your house? Like, there's no reason you need to be a side chick. But then again, when I think about it, going back to her time in Total Divas, she was talking to Gabriel. So maybe her choices in men aren't necessarily the greatest.
All right, so we go into the main event, the match everyone's been waiting for. Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. You know what I thought of when they were doing the promo package for this match? there was no sign of either of them. Like they weren't shown at all night before their match. Like I don't know how I feel about that, man. Like why not show them briefly? Like, pretend like they're just arriving to the arena or something like that.
Yeah.
Give us a glimpse of them, It's because it obviously we don't forget the main event, but they almost kind of go forgotten.
Yeah, like almost like boxing does, where you see them in the locker room kind of getting taped up or whatever, kind of, some 30 seconds so that you can see they're there, they're getting focused.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, especially when you build up this match to be the Monster Among Men versus the Beast Incarnate. You would think that there would be a clip backstage where they just show downright determination, like fierce focusedness.
Both guys got great reactions for their entrances. And I mean, loved how Lesnar got in the ring, showed intensity from the get-go. I hate it when they do that shit where, it's supposed to be a fierce rivalry, but the two guys come out like it's all good. That wasn't the case with this one right here. Both the guys were going chest to chest as soon as Lesnar got in the ring. I was ready for them to get it on. I thought they did a great job of setting that intensity from the get-go.
I agree. And then these guys hit their moves, or I should say, Brock Lesnar hits a move and Braun Strowman just bounces up like it's nothing, to the chagrin and surprise of Brock Lesnar when he turns around. And then just Braun Strowman just literally tossing this dude like he is a rag doll from one side of the ring to the other. It was amazing to see, and good energy and continuation from SummerSlam.
Right. I thought Booker T, who normally I think is pretty terrible, but he had the line of the night. He says some shit like, guys, it's a minute into the match and Lesnar's on plan C.
Yeah, that's a good line. It's a good line from Booker T.
And then shortly after that, I believe it was the spot that you were mentioning. Lesnar hit a move. Strowman pops back up, hits him with a wicked chokeslam. Man, I thought Lesnar was going to keep going up and never come back down. Man, he got up there for that chokeslam. And then Strowman hits him with a quick power slam, and I like that. I like that psychology of, man, let me get it over with early.
Yeah. So I think Brock finally got a German on him. So he hit him with the suplex. And then, again, Brock Lesnar, it's like if he was just rolling, he rolls back up, hits him with the power slam or the choke slam, and then, tries to end the match early. I 100% agree with. Well, I like what they're doing with Braun Strowman, in the fact that they call him the Monster Among Men, and they're selling him as the Monster Among Men.
Right.
Because they've done that before with other guys where they make him to be this big bad dude, and then week in and week out, they have some questionable things that they do with him that's like, come on, guys.
So this is a weird little side note. So they're on the outside, they're battling and all that shit. And then I noticed, and this may have happened during the Neville Enzo Amore match. I don't know. I just now noticed it in this match, that the table that was broken during the Cena Roman match was put together and is all good. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, well, I think I noticed it a couple pay-per-views ago when they slammed somebody into the table. You like the way they slammed it, the table kind of folded in, and you could tell like it was like a jigsaw, a jigsaw puzzle, that the pieces fit in there so that they were easy to collapse on each other, but easy to set back up.
So they were going at it hot and heavy. And then I thought the match slowed down just a little bit when Lesnar locked in the Kimura lock, and he held it for a long while. And the crowd just kind of died down for a little bit right there.
Yeah, and I don't understand why, because at this particular point in the match, it almost seemed like Brock Lesnar was desperate because anything that he tried didn't work on Braun Strowman. And then he finally gets the Kimura lock, and he has to hold it that long just to get him to react like a normal person and be, finally feel the effects of it. And like you said, the crowd kind of, it was not into it. I'm like, I don't understand that, because you're basically seeing Braun Strowman, desperate, I'm sorry, not Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar, desperate, which is not a position you see Brock Lesnar very often be.
I agree. And then shortly after that, they have a brief, back and forth, 6 German suplexes, and they were all legit. I mean, Lesnar had to work to get those German suplexes pulled off. He attempts an F5 that was reversed into a power slam, followed by a second power slam. And for a moment, I thought this was going to be it, but a false finish right there. I don't know.
Yeah, what I did like before this match is that they listed the tail of the tape for both men, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, damn, Strowman is 5 inches taller and 100 pounds heavier than Brock Lesnar. Like, how many guys can you say that Brock Lesnar has ever faced legit has 100 pounds on the dude?
Yeah, we were talking just before coming on the air, and we were wondering, man, how heavy does Brock Lesnar come in for his when he was fighting in the UFC? And was it a specific match that you found, or was it his last one, 160?
It was, I think it was the last one, which I think was UFC 200, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, against Mark Hunt.
Yeah, he weighed in at 265.
So 265.
And they bill him here. Yeah, and they bill him at the WWE as 285. So, give or take, it's right dead on, at least for Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, it's in the neighborhood.
And I'm looking at Braun Strowman. I'm like, damn, this dude legit has 100 pounds on Brock Lesnar.
He's a big dude, man. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's legit. I'll put it to you that way.
It was interesting to see, and again, proves more to the point. I think early on, when Brock Lesnar was working on Plan C, he hurt his back early on, and he tries to go for an early F5 and could barely get the guy up because his back had been worked on, previously earlier in the match. So definitely a match where Brock Lesnar had to work to get his moves in.
All right, so let's talk about the finish. After a little bit of back and forth, Brock finally hits a F5 for what I thought was a pretty flat finish, man. You can hear the fans. They were audibly disappointed in the finish.
I agree. You talked about it earlier that if Braun Strowman were to lose this match, it would almost kill his momentum. And I agreed with you. I thought this was a perfect opportunity for him to be, to strap the title on him. But I agree. Like, after everything that we saw in that match, and Brock Lesnar struggling to do, he had to do 6 German suplexes just to get a 2 count on the guy. One F5 is going to do it. Come on now.
Yeah, I didn't agree with how the finish went down. I mean, if you want to keep the belt on Lesnar, I mean, that's fine. I can understand that. Lesnar is a superstar, and if you want to protect him and you want to go all the way to WrestleMania with him holding the championship, that's fine. I'd rather it be him than anybody else. But for just one F5 to finish off Strowman, me personally, I mean, it's wrestling. You can make it work if you pull off something extraordinary. But I see this being really difficult for them to bounce him back and to take for fans to take him as a serious threat to the title.
And not on top of that, we've seen Brock Lesnar do some F5s where he literally lifts the dude clear up above his shoulders. And if you watch this F5, he barely is able to swing this guy around. It just wasn't convincing enough for me to believe that one little F5 would have done it. I think he should have gotten up, hit him with another F5, and then I could believe Brock Lesnar keeping the title, and him keeping the title I'm okay with, because he's been on more shows and more pay-per-views in the recent months. So I'm okay with that. It's not like he's the champion and we don't see him for 2 months. So, but I think after all that momentum you build up, you almost stop Braun Strowman's momentum in his tracks by not giving him the title.
Again, I don't see how they're going to bounce him back. Any title win that he may get in the future, I think is just going to fall. It's going to be anticlimactic, I guess is the best way for me to put it. I thought they should have put it on him at SummerSlam, so forget about No Mercy. You don't do it at No Mercy. Him winning it down the road is not going to have that same impact.
Especially if he wins it from somebody other than Brock Lesnar.
Exactly. Like, it has to be Lesnar. And Lesnar dropping the title to a guy like Strowman, in my opinion, doesn't hurt Lesnar at all. I mean, that's a loss that I think he can afford to take.
Well, like we said, the big 4 dogs, Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman, and Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar loses to any of those other 3, and I think it's something that's not going to affect his legacy.
No, I agree 100%. So let's try to predict where we think they're going to go. I haven't read any reports. I usually don't don't try to look into, too much into the future. I just take the news, day by day as I get it. But I don't know if Lesnar is expected to be at the next pay-per-view. So let's say he's not. What do you headline TLC with?
TLC is not the joint pay-per-view, correct?
No,
or is
no.
it the joint pay-per-view?
No, TLC is the next Raw pay-per-view. Survivor Series is after that. That'll be the joint.
Okay. So TLC, I guess if you don't have an intercontinental, or if you don't have a Universal Champion, you headline with the Roman Reigns Miz matchup.
Yeah, or possibly the Shield and the Bar TLC match. I mean, I can't remember the last time a pay-per-view's been headlined by the Tag Team Championship, but if the match is good enough, I think fans will be satisfied.
Yeah, and that could work as well. That could work as well. And you could potentially see. You and I have always talked about them not giving them enough story time to develop. So maybe a TLC matchup with the Miz Taraj, the Miz, Roman Reigns, those guys gives it more of individual time for the Intercontinental title matchup to develop. So I could see that.
Possibly. So overall, No Mercy, I think we both agree, pretty good show.
Yeah, for the most part. I would, some of the matches placements and some of the finishes were a little head scratcher, but overall, the whole show itself, it was a heavy hitter, fully stacked, and I think it was executed to, great fanfare.
All right, man. So hope you guys enjoyed our review of No Mercy. Triple R here, Ant-Man on the line, signing off. We'll catch you guys, man. Probably not next week. Probably in a couple of weeks. We'll probably by then we'll have plenty to cover. So we'll see you guys next time on the Clean Finish.
It'll be just in time for the next pay-per-view.
There you go. All right, man. We'll holler at you later.
All right. Have a good night, man.